Okay, the time is now 3:30. I call order the meeting of the Joint Committee of the Ways and Means and the E&E, and we will see. It's going to be found, if you like, the agenda for the meeting may be found on the county website under the tab for the legislature. Please silence your phones and electronic devices. At this time, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Can we have a roll call for both committees?
Benton,
Here.
Jean,
Here.
Fabian,
Here.
Dumas,
Present.
Donald, Pedro, Rivera,
Here. Here.
present, two absent. And for Uni, Fabian,
Here.
Dumas,
Present.
Donald, Eric,
Here.
Bessie, Sierra.
Here.
Bianca. Here. Five present, three absent.
Okay, first up, we have number one on our agenda. Connor Davies is here and going to give us a budget breakdown for 25-26. Floor is yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for taking time to review the report. I want to start off because I don't want to forget. I'd like to thank Agnes, Paul, and their staff for their assistance during the review. They provided us all the information regarding their calculations. And the good news is, as we found variances, not only did they review them, but they talked to us about them to make sure we factually got everything. So I appreciate all their assistance in that. All right, so the budget before you, I'm going to start with page 43 in our report, which is the summary of the budget. Where is that? High summary of our budget. The total budget before you is $69.24 million. It's an increase of about $3.6 million over the prior year, which is a 5.5% increase in the appropriations. What's driving the increase is the personnel budget is up about $1.3 million to cover the cost of contracts that are currently in place. They did increase their contractual expense by about $960,000, and fringes by about $1.2 million. On the funding side, to cover those increases, their tuition is up $1.8 million. The full-time tuition per student is now $5,988. It's up about $180. I'll go through what pages this fall on as I go through. Part-time tuition was up $750 to $249.50. State aid remained flat at about $12.7 million. And the county share went up by about $1.3 million, or 6%. That covers basically where all the funding came from. What I figure I'll do is, instead of bouncing between both years like I did with the executive, I'm going to talk about the results for 24-25 and our projection for those results first. That can be found on page 43. So as you can see on the revenue side on the top of the page, their tuition is coming in slightly better, about $100,000 over what they budgeted. Their state aid is coming in slightly under. There's a little rental that they were paying in college that they no longer use in space. And their other revenue came in about $500,000 over. The bulk of that is the CD Orange Plus, the old self-sustaining classes. On the personnel side, they're coming in about $680,000 based on our projections over on personnel. And that's, again, they budgeted over about $1 million in salary savings. They just didn't achieve the total savings. I think from your point of view, the good news on that projection is that they did come under on their full-time positions. So they didn't add to the permanent full-time positions. They came in over on part-time adjunct. Their capital equipment, they did spend a little more money than they anticipated on capital equipment. Contractual services came in about $646,000 over what was in the budget. The bulk of that was bad debt. So again, as the college's receivables age, more receivables fall into the debt category, so they make an allowance for that bad debt. If they do collect it in the future, they'll reduce that bad debt expense. And on the employee benefit side, we're projecting they came in over by about 160,000, which makes sense when you consider we projected them over on the salary line. We do have to cover the FICA, retirement, and health insurance. So overall, we're projecting bringing one loss. They had originally appropriated 880,000. So we're projecting a $1.9 million reduction in their fund balance. Now, how does that compare to the college's projection? If you turn to page 44, you can see basically on the revenue side, we're in concurrence. Our revenue projections and theirs are pretty much dead on. It makes sense again because your enrollment is already in, your summer enrollment's in, all your revenue is already in. So on the expense side, as I said, we're projecting slightly higher on the personnel side. Again, we have later data. We have to the last payroll. Contractual side, as I said, that's free benefits. So overall, we're about $1 million higher projected loss on college than current enrollment. Okay. Now we take our numbers, projections, and that's what we base a lot of our 25, 26 projections on. So if we turn to page 45, make sure I'm pointing to the right page. Yep. This is the new budget. So, as I said, the tuition you can see is up 1.8 million. The college is projecting that their current enrollment figures will go up by around 5%, and they did increase the tuition 3%. Now, tuition, again, is what helps attract students to community colleges. And as the report indicates, the tuition at Ock right now is basically the highest in the Hudson Valley. So you have to be aware of that as you're trying to get your enrollment figures up, is that you don't want to discourage students from enrolling and go to another community college. So the good news is during uncertain times, your enrollment typically goes up. Your state aid, again, is based on a formula. Similar to your contribution to the college, the state doesn't reduce their contribution. They have a floor. The problem with that is, as your enrollment drops, you've been receiving the floor, I believe, for the last 3 or 4 years. In order to get that floor to go up and start being reimbursed based on the amount of money that they give you per FTE, you need to get your enrollment figures up. I believe the 5-year plan for the college shows that they'll start hitting that number in 2 to 3 years if they continue to increase the enrollment. To give you an idea, we do have a chart in there on enrollment. Your low point was 22-23, where you were at 1,550 students. Back in 16-17, you were at almost 2,890. Currently, you're up to 2,000, roughly 100. So you have a little ways to go. You have to keep your marketing effort up. You have to keep driving up enrollment because enrollment fuels tuition. Enrollment fuels the chargeback. Enrollment drives your state aid. So the key to this is enrollment. So you have to keep marketing. You have to keep trying to attract students. All right. Next area is your other revenue. You can see that compared to the 25 budget, it's up $876,000. That variance is mainly driven by the self-driven courses, self-sustaining courses, the Orange Plus courses. Okay. Now I'm going to ask you to turn to page 47, where we'll see some of our variances. So you can see that on the bulk, as I said, tuition were based on agreement, small variance of $130,000. Charges to other counties is up about $220,000 over the college's projection. But that's driven by the fact that we're projecting higher costs. What you do for that formula is you take the current costs, factor them in, and then the other counties reimburse you based on their costs. So since we're projecting higher costs, obviously we're going to project a little bit higher. reimbursement. Service fees, $3 million, 40 grand. Got a big variance. You haven't increased your fees, I believe, in 2 years. So you may want to look at increasing your fees as your expenses rise. So that at least if you're charging lab fee, if you're charging a fee for IT, as your costs rise, you pass that cost on to the student. Fees may be less noticeable to the obvious than the tuition going up. So you may be able to squeeze a few dollars out of fees. Your interest income. That's our big variance on the revenue. You see we're projecting $280,000 less. What we do is take the current cash balance, projecting our impact of our projection, which was a larger loss last year, a larger loss this year, plus we factored in 2 rate increases by the Fed. It's all over the news. I know the administration would like the Fed to drop the rate. The Fed has indicated possibly September and December. If they do that, we feel we might fall short on the interest. So overall revenues of 46 million, we're only having various total variance. So very close to their projected figure. You just have to monitor your enrollment. That's the key. On the expense side, personnel. We always agree with the personnel because we don't know what positions we're going to approve and we're going to fill. But what I would point out is that they did budget 1.225 million, almost 1.4 million salary savings this year. On page 19 of our report, you can see that the college currently has about 43 vacant positions. They total about 2.2 million. Now that's as of our report date. I have filled some of those positions in anticipation of new enrollment, especially in the semester year. But you can see that if they budget 1.225, they're going to have to keep a lot of these positions vacant, or as new positions arise, vacant positions arise. So you're going to have to monitor the vacant positions. I think in their budget report, they did indicate that they plan on filling about 35 of these 43. They may have to be filled over time and not right away, so you can achieve success. The next area we looked at is contractual service. Now that's made up of a lot of categories: utilities, bad debt, maintenance, insurance, categories like that. Our real variances, again, was in the very bad debt expense. We had about $250,000 estimation of higher bad debt. Again, because it's a formula. As you can see, it was a higher percentage of bad debt. Doesn't mean it's going to be realized. Because again, the college has an outside agency, maybe they collect it. We would hope they do. We would hope that they work on the bad debts of the agency. Because I guess they work on, I assume they work on commission, college. So the more they collect, the less bad debt. The other area that we did have a little bit of variance in is electricity. We're projecting $130,000 variance between the two campuses. And we did factor in the current usage and the request that Orange and Rockland and the power companies have made to the Public Service Commission for an increase. So we factored in that increase, and again, because we were a little higher last year, we're a little higher this year. And that's $130,000. We did come in slightly under maintenance agreements by about $89,000. Again, based on current usage, they haven't utilized all the maintenance funding, so we came in slightly under net $340,000. The employee benefits is the bigger deficit. The college put in their budget an amount equal to the savings, projected savings on personnel. That's 100%. Fringe benefits aren't 100% salary. So the bottom line is, to achieve this number, you're going to have to be even more positions vacant to achieve that salary. So again, based on the fact that we assume full employment, we think you're going to be short by about $670,000 in all the various categories. So going to have to monitor that very closely. Because again, fringes typically come in anywhere, if it's a single person, probably about 40%, if it's a married person, about 60% on average. So again, you have to factor in that they budgeted 100% salary savings equal to the fringe benefit savings. I just don't think that's possible. So we come up about $1 million short on expenses, 100 over on the revenue. Our net deficit for the budget is about $900,000. In order to fund that, the county would have to give another 900, or the college again would have to dip into its fund balance and monitor its expenses based on the way they project. I know that was quick. That was perfect.
Okay, we'll start with questions.
So, just to, okay, you believe that they have sufficient surplus to be able to do that?
If they're, unfortunately, college has a different accounting methodology. They're what's known as full accrual. So if you turn to page 39 in the report, their financial statement would show that there's a deficit of $193 million. When I add back in the other post-employment benefits, which is the estimate for the health insurance, I add back in the impact of the pension, because again, you get your bill, pay it, but the state says there's a deficit on a statewide level. Their fund balance comes down to about 7.4. They appropriated 500,000 in this budget, so they have about 6.9 left. We're projecting a shortfall of the current year. No, 24, 25. We're projecting the additional $1 million, so that would bring it down to 5 million, and another $1 million would bring it down to 25, 26.
Sufficient surplus amount for their account?
Well,
Big budget.
it's a big budget. They need to monitor it closely, and but the county becomes a backstop. So I mean, it is the county's community college, and if they fall short, they've got to come to you because they can't go to the state, and their tuition sensitive can't go to students. Part of the increase in their contribution, I want to point out, is a federal grant. That was a 5-year grant. It expired. That's 700,000 of the increase to continue that program. So it's not that the federal government cut the program. When it was agreed to, it was a 5-year program. I mean, again, the college can explain it better than I can. But that funding came to an end, and the program is continued in this budget. So that drove part of the county share of $700,000. But again, college feels it's a necessary program, so obviously.
Just so I'm clear, on this fund balance, if you take the 6.9 million that we're seeing for this year, the 24-25 budget had another $1 million.
Our projection is another $1 million.
Right.
Not the colleges.
And then the 25-26 budget going forward that you're looking at is showing another 900,000. So that would, all those numbers would drop it from 7.4 million to 5.
Yeah. Approximately, yes.
And is that a good place to be?
Again, if you go back in time, it's a policy question you're asking. If you go back in time, if you remember, the county had an unofficial policy of 7%. 7% of $60 million, it's $4.2 million. So, again, personally, 7% to me is on the side. The state usually recommends between 10 and 10% fund balance, although they'll never say that. For some municipalities, smaller, 25%. Again, you'll never get the state controller's office to ever answer that question. But when they come rate schools up and they rate municipalities up, they'll put it in writing. So 7% is a little on the low side. But again, it's based on our projection.
Okay, thank you.
So if we were to keep the budget as is, and take another 1.3 million out of the 5. Not going in the right direction.
Well, yeah.
Well, it's,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The other big question that comes to mind is, we've seen so much investment in workforce development, and that has provided a lot of growth. And I imagine that's also kind of limited to our ability to attract students. Does our current budget really allow us to be able to continue to grow those kind of programs? So that's what I'm more concerned about, is making sure that, right now, I feel like the colleges even, they don't have the space to do some of the things that they'd like to do. And so we have to consider the very, very likely possibility in the next year or two forward, and they're going to need more space. And that was something that, we had talked about years ago when we talked about Innovation Grade Street. But the reality is they've been able to accommodate that without the spaces. But the reality is we recognize that colleges have continued to grow, attract more students, demand continues to grow, they're going to need that. So it's that looks like this kind of project.
I'm going to answer that in different ways. Since I'm not an expert, you have to ask them. But if I look back in time, like 2016 and 17, we had almost 3,000 students at the campus. So you already accommodated 3,000, which would be 50% more than you have now. So again, from a layman's point of view, if you could accommodate it back then, I'm assuming that the opening of the Newburgh campus and the way more students can work remotely, and you probably have the space, but I think they need to answer that more. I think of America, it looks like the economy.
Mr. Chairman,
Any other questions? Oh, sorry.
So you said it was 600,000 taken from the general fund last year?
Their budget anticipated using 500,000.
And 1.1 this year?
They're projecting, I'm sorry, last year's fund balance was 80. They used 880,000 fund balance. This year they're suggesting 500. I had it back.
And you guys are saying 1.1?
We're saying that it's about $1 million. About 1.5.
So what's it gonna look like the following year? Because I mean, taking it from the general fund is like trying to live on the savings. We're gonna have to pay for this next.
Whenever you utilize fund balance, I always like to point out that means you're budgeting a deficit. And if the deficit is growing from year to year, unless, again, they start maximizing the number of students, which their plan has it in a couple of years, the state will contribute more. But until that time, you're depleting your savings.
So do we know what the figures are gonna be with the following budget?
They do put in there, they put a 5-year projection. Paul and I used to probably answer that, but they anticipate next year.
Can I go back to the floor for the state?
Yes.
You said that it would take, that they're projecting 3 to 5 years where they actually may meet where the state would start chipping in more, because the state was going down this year rather than up.
It's only down by $2,200, which is a piece of rent that wasn't part of
Yeah,
it.
but their $2,200 is then down even more than what they should be paying to
The old
the
formula.
original setup. As far as that, whereas we're looking at a 6% increase this year. And last year, I know they got an increase, plus we also paid, they gave them extra for the incentives for the buyouts. And the year before, there was extra that we give, and every time we give the extra, it goes into our base. So it's not like we can do a one-time and help them out. So even with that, I mean, if you're talking another percentage that we have to be behind an extra $1 million, and they have to come back to us, or 6% could turn into 10% or 15%, depending on what, is not coming through. So,
Right, they would utilize their fund balance.
right, so how do we get the enrollment? Because that seems to be what is stopping us from getting what we should be getting from the state.
Again, I believe that they've done a very extensive marketing program. They're trying to attract students. Bulk of your students come from Orange County itself, the local high schools. And we do have, again, there's a chart here on the local high schools, and the overall enrollment in your high schools is down. So when the pool of individuals that you're drawing from is dropping, that real, and their enrollment is increasing, it says they're doing a better job reaching those students. Because if the pool goes down and your share goes up.
And the pool's gonna continue to go down because we don't have the kids that we used to have.
Correct.
So
expensive.
every year it's gonna go less and less as far as what we're gonna pull from.
Right.
Which is gonna make it that much more difficult for them to increase the enrollment, of course, is still being increased because of just, contracts.
I mean, historically, you look back in time as to when your enrollment was the highest. It was when the economy is unsettled. So when the economy is unsettled, historically, community colleges do better because parents have to make a choice. Do I spend $6,000 a year, or do I spend $60,000 a year? So it's sad to say that you do better in a worse economy. Right, exactly. So given that, again, unfortunately for college, stock markets have been rising the last few years. Parents' 529 plans are probably allowing them to spend money on more expensive schools. You're competing against an environment that's tough to be.
Okay, can you explain the financial aid formula? So like the students are obviously gonna have another increase this year. Do they get more student aid with that? So like right now, ACA is higher than our community colleges in our surrounding counties. So the financial aid grant, the grant needs are running similar as far as that, even though the cost is a little bit, different.
College will have to explain that. I just look.
So I'm just looking at that if, they've incorporated any of this, would the student aid go up if we charged more for the kids, or the kids the ones who are getting hit with this, if there's a formula there as well. And, that was my only question. Thank you so much.
Mr. Benton?
Thank you. So I still have a problem with why we're losing money on fees. What is the projected loss for that? That's a thing. That's a policy that can be very easy when with the nursing profession, when you're having fees that are losing money. The students, when they get out, obviously in the last class, we had the big publicity about how everyone passed on the first time. And they're getting offered jobs from $100,000 to $150,000 a year. So why aren't they paying the fees? Why are
Well, your fees are coming in pretty much on budget. But what I indicated was the fees haven't been increased in a couple of years. So again, I'm looking at the fact that your costs are rising for your city nursing program. Maybe the fees could go up a little bit instead of the tuition.
so do they really know the cost of the fees and what they should be, or are they just kind of guessing?
Plus, the formula ourselves.
Would you like us to speak? Would you like us to? We're happy to address any of the matters that you're raising. We have a whole team back here ready to address, so thank you for considering our budget today. With respect to the fees question, we have undertaken a very aggressive, rigorous fee study, both of the general technical fees that all students are assessed. That is on track to be considered by the Board of Trustees for the next year. And the fees that you're discussing right now on a program by program basis, so to your point, nursing has specific equipment and other items associated with that program that are specific to nursing. Those are also under consideration. And too long story, but when you register, like they're aligned with the registration system, so only students in that program would be that. Those two are under study. So I have colleagues here to discuss that more, but you're absolutely correct. Those have not been raised in a while. They are on track to be raised next year, and that will be brought to the Board of Trustees in the end of this year.
It's just a little too late. Thank you.
But it's the same, when you look at it, Tom Adele, Chairman of the Board of Trustees, it's the same as if we increasing tuition. Fees, tuition, it's the same cost to the student. We're already the highest block, so going after the fees, I can go for more fees, but I'm gotta go for the tuition as well. One other point I wanted to make up, the auditor mentioned that there's only 3,000 students. There's many more, there's probably more like 9,000 students that are here because we have part-time students, we have full-time students, and it takes maybe 2 to 3 people to make a full-time student. We also have the work-study programs, the CDL, the ESL, all the other programs that we do, workforce development, that don't get counted in this calculation or by the state calculation that we do. So we're covering about 9,000 students overall, our level. It's not just 3,000 students as a count. Body counts, it's 9,000 people we touch. Plus whatever we do for the community around whenever they use the campus or River campus or the Middletown campus. We do a lot more than just what these numbers are just talking about with the college. There's so much more happening at our. I don't know how we get it in order to what really to explain all these things that really happen. But there's many more students than that. We have many more programs, and we have a lot of success this year. We're doing a paramedic program starting here in October for the first time in Orange County. We got BMT programs that are going up. We got so much going on here. It's not just the college school, the college, traditional college, but just so many more students.
So if we have 9,000 students, and we're only calculating that we have roughly 2,500 if you go with the full
I said,
time.
full- no,
How
that's,
does that work? So.
I keep saying, I only look at the full-time enrollment. You also have part-time.
Okay.
But your total FTEs is about 4,000, 4,500. Total.
So that's why, because like when you read it, it gives you the hours, credit hours rather than
And if you look,
equates it to.
yes,
So it equated our part-time to roughly 1,300 additional, which would put it at
it's probably more
2,500
like 4,000. But you're at 2,100 budget, full-time.
I'm just using your numbers. I'm not
Well, no.
using- I'm not using mine. So can someone answer the question back here about the grants and the funding,
Yeah,
the financial aid?
Sure, when I'll start with Dr. Hackney, you can pick it up. So when we raised our tuition, so first of all, different than like say a private liberal arts college where there's a, private money that we can, let's make names sort of thing. We don't do that, right? So we have our tuition point. And then students who apply for federal financial aid are then making themselves available for federal financial aid, state financial aid, and we also have a foundation sitting next to me too, who might be able to assist as well. So at this point, let me leave Dr. Hackney, our provost, to talk a little bit about how our funding aid obviously.
So are you asking about how students benefit from financial
No,
aid?
I'm asking that, normally there's some type of formula as far as what you qualify for your financial aid.
Sure.
So like each year, if you do raise the tuition, the financial aid goes up. So the impact is still maybe there, but may not be there. It'd be more so if it was somebody who was a part-time versus a full-time.
Right,
So we
so,
get them a lot more.
so every year Congress determines what the maximum Pell Award is. So Pell is one of the most important financial aid awards that our students are eligible for, right? So next year, the maximum Pell Award is about $7,300 per student. Now, that doesn't mean every student that we enroll qualifies for that maximum Pell Award. It depends on if they're full-time, if they're part-time, the cost of attendance that's calculated by the federal government. So that's an important piece, right, that our students heavily rely on. But the other piece that I would just enter into the conversation is that this year, for the first time, we know that the governor has allocated funding for the SUNY Reconnect program, which is a new financial aid sort of award program that is a last dollar program for adults, 25 to 55 New York State residents in high demand fields. So there's some parameters. Not everybody gets access to that funding, but it is another pocket of funding for high demand fields that our students, both continuing students and new students, will be eligible.
So they're between their Pell and possibly that they could actually get more of a grant than what their tuition is.
Awesome. Yes. And that SUNY Reconnect program does not just cover tuition and fees, it also covers things like required textbooks and supplies.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just, the college is here to also respond to the question about workforce development. There's kind of two conflicting concepts of like, the full-time, the part-time, the need for growth, whether or not we're actually kind of right where we need to be. There's two things. One, I'm definitely always concerned when we raise tuition. I know that that's not the college's first go-to. If you did it, because you need to make up the funds that you're not getting. Understand that. My concern, number one, is then how does that make us competitive? Our colleges should maybe respond to that. What we're looking to do to kind of make up that, because that's concerning. Especially as someone who represents the city, we're always trying to attract students, not dissuade them. And secondly, it's really around the workforce development. We've had conversations over the years about the growth of the college and how to attract more different programs, whether it's trades, whether we're talking about nursing, we've done an amazing job of nursing, but how to attract more media space. And in those conversations, it sounds more like you need more space than you currently have. And please correct me if I'm wrong. So I just want to make sure that whatever budget we're passing, we're going to pass a budget that's going to prepare you for the future so you can grow, not be indebting yourself. Because I don't think that's cost effective, and I don't think anyone here would feel that way. So I want to make sure we can grow and make money and do it in a way that's sustainable.
Thank you. Thank you for the questions. For the tuition piece, we have three trustees here today. Tom, Bell, Ron Martucci, and Tony Bart, they're all here. They're paying when they have to raise tuition. We don't like bringing the tuition recommendation. They do look at what our super colleges in Hudson are doing. They know we're already at the top end of that, and carefully ask, is this outreach? Are our students watching? Are they preparing? And take that very seriously. As Erica talked about, are there enough federal programs, state programs, private programs that will help students who are most in need access those programs to get us to that tuition point? Not that that is the best solution, but then it becomes incumbent on us to communicate there are resources to help get to that point. And otherwise, keep that tuition responsibly low for families who might not be accessible or want to do that. Right? So we know that we're trying to do that. Our strategy is kind of blended with this other question, right? In the document, in our budget proposal, I think we'll see the successes that we had in part of that document. And one theme that runs through all of those successes is we've gone out and we've looked for grants every which way first to try to prove these ideas that we've had for innovations to attract students, both attract new students and retain students we've got, to show that we've got ideas that work, to show the evidence that we're holding on to those students, a lot of them student workforce lines, and then say, these are working, these are real students that are now generating tuition or fees if they're on the workforce, like non-credit workforce side, and now we got to keep them, we got to do it ourselves, and go find new grants to be innovative. So that's students to the workforce side. Operational dollars aren't always like expansion capital dollars. That might be a conversation next month or 2 months from now. We have to bring our facilities management plan to you. I would, riff and say the space we have right now, we need to tweak it for the college of today. We've got a lot of ideas both on the traditional transfer side and on the workforce side that it needs to be tweaked to serve the students of today. And then some of the bigger ideas, say like if it's more advanced manufacturing, we might not be tricked out for that at all. So that might be new space, that might be different space. So it's a mix of what we need on the space.
Great work.
For a comment, question hasn't specifically been asked, but your auditor brought up this whole issue of vacancy. And I just want to reassure committees that vacancy management is the only lever we really have to push against budget changes and so forth. 83% of the budget is personnel and benefits. So we take this issue of vacancy extremely seriously. And the document that's in their handouts with the 47 positions, that's a snapshot of time. That was a snapshot back in the middle of April at some point. Some of those positions have been filled, some of them have decided not to be filled. But I just want to assure you that no position, I don't care whether it's full-time, part-time, grant funded, seasonal, all position requests have to funnel through the executive committee team, which is Chris, myself, provost, and the vice president we meet every week, and the first item on our agenda is to review any requests that come up from the person. And these are not rubber stamp discussions. We take our responsibility seriously to get as close to a balanced budget as we possibly can. And as I said, that's the tool we have. So we embrace using it. You know, Chris mentioned that there's, you know, we can put in the document a fairly significant savings with the vacancy management. We've been able to do that each year because we do take it as seriously as this. So I just wanted to make that clear.
Legislator Pageon first.
Thanks, Chairman. Chris, this question's for you. You're projecting here that for 2024, 2025, that the county community college will be short 1.9 million, am I correct with the number you're telling?
Yes.
Who's gonna pay for that? The state has already set the formula.
It will
The
come out of the
tuition's
fund
already
balance.
been set, so that money will come out of the community college's fund balance.
Yes.
Forward that question for 2025 and 2026. The community colleges proposed a budget in which the county contribution will be $23,152,556. It is your projected estimate that the community college will be short $901,000 for 2025, 2026.
It'll be short 1.4 million, because their budget included 500. We're 900 greater than that.
That being said, where will that money come
From their fund balance.
from? It won't come from the state and it won't come from tuition. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Chair.
I just want to follow up, you said you have 47 open positions right now that you're using for,
47 are in the document that we submitted with the budget book. That's the snapshot of time as of April. So positions on that have changed. I just want to make it clear that that's anytime we do it, it's a snapshot of time, but we're looking at it.
okay, but you've been using that to help kind of offset by leaving them open.
Yes.
Okay, so my question is, are those in this budget? So, you know, just say we have 40 positions right now that are vacant. Is the funding in the budget for those 40 positions, even though you're not looking to fill them? So that would include their salary and any insurance and everything?
Currently, yes.
So what is that value on if those didn't fill? So if you have those 40 positions and you didn't fill them, what does that equate to in cost analysis?
Yeah, it's about 2.2 million of salary alone.
Okay, and
And
then,
they included an offset of 1,225,000 in the budget.
okay,
They put in a negative.
so if they didn't fill that, the 900 that's projected for being less this year would then still leave a 1.1 roughly, or 1.3 of additional funds that were not being spent if those positions weren't filled.
No, they included 1.2 savings already, so that reduces the 2.2 down to 1.
Okay.
And then if they didn't fill anything, which is probably physically impossible,
900,000 would be covered by that.
because
So
they're,
it would come from, so,
right, because that includes adjuncts and includes other people that they might need to provide.
okay, does that also include like the benefits and the insurance and everything that goes with it, or is that just salary?
That's just salaries. They did include benefits for all those positions, but they again offset it by 1.
Okay. So what would be the actual cost if you took the pay plus what the benefits would be? That would obviously be more than the 2.2, it would be
The benefit,
higher.
you have to assume the benefits average about 60% in salaries. So they have 2.2
So it would
million,
be at like
another
3.5
1.2. Yeah.
roughly?
right? And they budgeted 2.4. And so
All right, thank you.
Legislator Sessions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I'd like to thank the college. I know we've found it very diligent squeezing the people off the back of the floor. Yeah. I appreciate that. I recently had a wonderful tour of Morrison Hall. Mr. Martin, showed me around. There's a lot going on in college. I'm also a graduate of student college graduate.
Continues to be evaluated, around what, 3,000, I think, a semester, 2,995, something like that. My question is, have you, I'm sure you have done projections, if you were to increase, say, $100 per semester on each student, if there's 9,000, even the part-timers, 100 for the fall, 100, not, so the last thing I'd like to do, but that comes out to about $1.8 million. If you raise that $100. Have you ever done projections moving forward? I think it's the last thing any college or university wants to do is raise tuition. And we know that the state continues to be woefully short, which is painful in their blood, of getting their fair share, which throws it back to us in the room here today, forcing you to come with hat in hand over and over again. I think it's shameful on the part of the state. But if you were to raise $100 a semester for 9,000 students, and your fees, that's about 1.8 million. If I did my math right, I was a history.
Well, 9,000 students started, that doesn't make sense. So,
Well, so you said there are 9,000 even considering part-timers?
but that's what the $100 would, you wouldn't assign that to a person part-time.
Why not?
Because they usually basically say there's X number of credits in FTE, and they divide that into the total
Well,
cost.
I think you could if you wanted to somehow. My point is that SUNY Orange continues to be a very attractive place for students to go. I think it's a great campus, both in Middletown and in Newburgh. It's valued and you get to pay for it, and you're getting a lot at SUNY Orange. So I think that a very minor increase is not going to chase the rules of the Duchess or certainly not consultant.
If you look in their budget report, they do a 5-year projection.
Okay.
And in the yellow, it does say they assume tuition will go up 2% a year, which would be roughly a little more than $100. So if you look in the budget,
Yeah.
on page 29, it's see. And I think that's why they believe that they keep increasing the enrollment like they've been doing.
Right. And you're doing a
That
good job.
eventually the state will cross over,
You think?
they hope.
Right. Oh, you know.
Yeah,
They would change the floor.
right, we change the state's forward, that's what their goal is. Their goal is to get the state to move the floor forward, just like the county floor.
Thank you.
Thank you. So if you're using 500,000 from the appropriated fund balance, and you're getting short 900 back in 1,000, that why doesn't that leave 5 million in the fund balance rather than going down into 4 something like you were saying?
Because I did my math. Our projection or our initial fund balance projection had our current losses. So you are correct. It's the higher.
Oh, so it's around 5.
Yes,
So it's not that bad.
I subtracted them both from the fund balance. The one was already out.
Okay.
In conversation. State
Okay.
negative.
Okay. So it would be around 5 for one time.
Well, that assumes that you're giving them the 1.3 million. If you don't give them the 1.3, it goes to 3.7, right, Chris?
No.
No, it goes to
If I
5.
go to page 39,
That's right.
right. I already took out from their fund balance the 1.9 that we're projecting. I took out the 500 you're currently using. So actually, you're gonna go to 6. If you take out the whole 900,000 difference, you'd be at 6 million.
It's gonna be 6 million, so that's even better.
So I hit him twice when I.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I can't help it because I listen and then
And that's
something
okay.
else pops in. And So one more question about the financial aid. On an average, and I know you're not gonna be able to answer this because I didn't think to before you, but it just popped up. How many full-time students qualify for the financial aid?
So typically about 50% of our students, around 50% are Pell eligible. That gives you kind of a ballpark, but we can certainly follow up.
And the added money that you said the state is now
that's
going
right.
to be able to equate to what per student, just roughly.
That is
I
a big
guess.
question mark.
I guess.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
if you took Rob's suggestion and raised it by the $100 a semester, the previous Pell Grant was at the 7,400 roughly in there, but the tuition is only at 5,800. So that $100 would be covered by the grant for at least 50% of the students, if not maybe more, depending on what they do as far as raising what the cap is for you to qualify.
Yeah,
Would that be correct?
yeah, so it's a complicated picture because students, the Governor Hochul's Student Reconnect program is the last dollar program. So the amount that students will qualify to actually have applied for an account could be several $100s, it could be $5. We won't really know until we maximize their award, both in terms of federal and state funding. We also have TAP funding through New York State
Yes.
that students have to apply for in order to be considered by student.
But if the Pell Grant's at 7,300 and the tuition's at 58, there's still a, $1,400 difference there. I'm just going off what the numbers that they said.
Books and other things, that's all that's money.
Does that all come out of the hospital?
Right, so Pell eligibility, like I said, there's various factors that contribute to what you're actually eligible for, such as your household income, which is going to vary widely for our student population as well.
Yeah, I know it's
There's a lot.
it's so difficult to, put out just some of the questions, just like the numbers and, so I'd rather have a full, at least, an estimate to be able to make an informed decision and, not make it.
So,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. So what are some of the things that disqualify someone from Pell? What, like, you mentioned in household income, obviously,
Yeah.
that would be an obvious one. What are some other things that knocks 50% of the people out?
Students may choose not to apply. They have to apply through federal financial aid, through FAFSA. So some students and families choose not to fill out the FAFSA. Right?
Okay, so isn't that our job to,
Absolutely, yeah. And there was actually a pretty intense movement towards requiring New York State high schools, high school graduating students to complete the FAFSA before graduation. That fell off, but that conversation will pick up again next year. But we are out in the high schools as we're doing recruiting and admissions, strongly encouraging students to fill out that FAFSA every spring, as Robert did.
and what else?
In terms of
Why they don't qualify? That's two things. Income,
yeah, that's one of
choice.
the things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, that's our job to educate them that, we need to fill out this paperwork a little bit.
Well, 100 things going on, like sometimes they just.
I know, but
So
I'm
many things that we
also,
know about.
I'm also an alumni, and I know that the minute you walk in and you enroll, you're right in there while you're doing your classes and getting everything else. They're telling you what you qualify for. So, I mean, and they help you, unless you guys don't help anymore, but I know that they help you.
I'm sure they
You know,
must.
The counselors and the financial aid people will help you get everything that you need and put it all together and make sure it's filled out correctly, so that we don't have that. So there shouldn't be anybody that doesn't know.
There's a limit on how many semesters you can qualify for, there's a couple of.
Yeah.
Legislator Sierra?
I just wanted to say you guys are doing a great job. And echo the sentiment of Legislator Lehigh and Legislator Sassy. I sat on this committee 8 years ago, and how far you guys come in the last 8 years, I'd say it's very impressive. And you are correct, to put a number on what you guys are doing is almost impossible. But I think our job as legislators is to look at the finances. And my concern is, is this deficit going to continue to grow? So if we have a plan in place, I'm not totally in favor of raising tuition, but I am in favor of raising the fees. Have you guys looked into raising the fees?
They're studying. They're studying.
I think the colleges are big, like they said, the college is Orange County College, and it's the county baby, so I think we should take care of it. And whatever we can do as a legislature, I think we're here to help, but it is concerning that this number is growing year after year. So I believe you guys do have a plan in place to increase fees, but some kind of combination of increasing fees, cutbacks, and even tuition raising to get this number down. Have a plan in place in the next 5 years to get this number down would be great.
But I do want to commend you guys on the work that you have already done, and to see how far you've come in 8 years is astonishing. So I don't want you guys to feel like, we're here to beat you guys up, but we got to fix you just like you. Thank you.
Okay, any other, which set of changes?
Yes, service fees. It seems they amount to about a little over $3 million.
Correct.
So even if you were to increase it by 25%, you're looking at a fairly small number relative to the overall budget.
Correct.
So while it's, it's good to have the discussion, it's good to see the colleges trying to move forward to increase those fees. It's the significance of the impact is probably not there.
10% would be $300,000.
9% would be the 900,000.
Oh.
Maybe sure.
If that's achievable.
So what is the deadline for you to implement increasing fees and $100 extra for tuition?
It would not affect coming fiscal year. So it would be effective in the fall of 26.
So it's already too late for us to do anything.
So we've already approved tuition for this year.
It's in our budget already.
Fee structure is what it is now, but we are, as President Young indicated, we're studying the fees and looking at changing them around and ultimately raising. Because one thing I would comment on the fees is, when we compare our tuition to the other Hudson Valley schools, it's an incomplete picture. You have to look at tuition and fees. Because some of the other colleges choose to keep their tuition and their fee structure high.
But again, that's based on programming. Nobody has exactly the same program.
In some cases, it's programming, in some cases, it's just a financial.
Okay, so basically our choice today, since that's set, the fees are set, tuition set, we're just set on the choice of what to leave the fund balance. That's honestly the only thing that we are having to decide today, whether we go with 500, 1.4, or something in the middle.
So we want to do one more.
Yeah, just a final comment, because I keep hearing about the raising the tuition and the, and obviously the college are always trying to be able to think about it. A lot of people are hurting right now, trying to make choices between how they're going to pay rent, how they're going to pay their utilities, how they're going to pay medical bills. And students are particularly impacted by that. We're seeing more and more young people who are not able to leave home because they can't afford a rent, living, at home for a longer period of time. So I just want to emphasize that when we're talking about these things, that $100 that might not seem like a minuscule when it comes to us or our budget. For them, for those young students, it is a big deal. And also these Pell Grants, they're not really filling all of the costs of the students. So just wanted to put that, it's very important that we emphasize that these students are really struggling, just like millions of Americans around across the country. So when we make those kind of choices that seem like it's just $100 here, or $1,000 there, that's their rent, right? So just wanted to emphasize that.
I just respond to that. On the flip side of that, this money that's coming out is taxable. It's all out of our tax base. So you're not taking it from the students, you're taking it from the students' parents anyway, or from the students if they live on their own. So they could be paying it one way or another. At least they'd be getting something out of it from the tuition part. Whereas the other part, if they're not going to school, they could be paying it for somebody else. So it's not just the students, and believe me, I always end up being like the negative person here, and it's not. It's just to make sure that all of the facts are there and that we all consider all of the avenues of everything as far as that goes. So one way or another, it's still coming from our tax base. So it will still have an impact on those students and those students' families as well when we decide on what we're getting on the county side. So that's it.
I would just want you to remember, when you went to college, and I'm also an alumni of Seminole, okay, the campus is not like it was in the beginning. You come watch our people out here, this is their last chance. These kids, there's no way, we got kids sleeping in cars, we got kids going to food back. We got kids that are, this is it for them. They don't make it, I would say probably their parents aren't paying anything to anybody about anything, but this is it for them. They're gonna be part of our society, part of our community. They need this community college. When they graduate, you gotta come to a graduation. When they graduate, I see mothers crying, okay, that don't speak English, okay, because they're so proud of their children that have accomplished what they've accomplished, and that they're gonna get a job in nursing, or they're gonna get a job in another place. It's a very proud scene to see, but this is it. This isn't like when we went. It's not like when we, I'm just telling you, it's not. It's a whole different,
agree.
whole different picture that's there, and I'm very proud to be the chairman of the board here to see what the results of all these things that come out of it. And I know they're gonna be a plus to society when they come out. As a matter of fact, when I see them walk across the stage, I feel much more comfortable. I'm not gonna become part of the gang, or become part of the society going down. They're gonna be something when we get out of it because they made it to the 2 years of there, and they made it go on to the 4 years. That's just my comment, that's how I personally.
I listen, and without wanting to put it out to the whole public, when I went on, I was a single mom that didn't have a job and was on a scholarship, okay? And I busted my butt to keep and get through in less than 2 years. So I understand being in that seat, and I wish that every single one of them could at some point come and sit at this seat and be successful. So I'm not disparaging it, I'm just basically saying that we need all the information, because the only way you can make an informed and educated decision is to have all these facts out there. So to have where we didn't have any real input on if we could have raised anything or helped with the fees or anything like that, I just wanted it so that it's out. So I'm not trying to be negative, it's just that it comes across when people ask questions, because sometimes you have to ask those hard questions to get those answers so that you have a full picture before you make a decision that has this impact. So that's it.
Or you, Benton, has
Yeah.
another question?
No, just a statement. Like I said, it comes down, I think, where we pick a number between 500 and 1.4. So I'm more amenable to, using appropriated fund balance of $1 million, which will still leave them 6.4 plus.
I don't, I'm not following that math. My math says right now, based on what we've been given, if you go to page 39.
Yeah.
Which is 6.9 million, there's another 900,000.
No, I'm talking about adding 500 to the 500, which would make it 6.4.
Where do you get 500?
Under the less, right? 500 under the 7.4.
Yeah, using $1 million in appropriated fund balance rather than 500.
Well, let's get this, so it's
Go ahead, Mr.
6.9, and then based on your projections for 25, 26, there's a possibility of another $900,000 shortfall, which would bring the 6.9 down to 6. So now, if you want to do, if you're suggesting that you want to
Increase county contribution.
No, using an extra 500 of their fund balance.
which would bring it to 5.5. Right now,
No, he said it. He said-
If you add that and then you take. the
maybe let's let the experts.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So right now, the budget before you uses $500,000. If you did nothing and my projected numbers came in, they would utilize that fund balance. I don't think you have to make an adjustment. I don't think you have to make that adjustment 900. They said they can live within 500. My projection shows they need 900 more. If you left it alone, and I was close to being right, they would drain the fund balance to cover that shortfall as is.
To 6 million.
Right. So I don't think you have to make a budget adjustment to appropriate more fund balance, because again, it's their projection versus mine.
Chairman Hines?
Yeah, Chris, this proposal also includes us giving them 1.3 million.
Yes.
If we don't give them the 1.3 million, the 6 million goes down to 4.7.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure everybody knows that.
That
Counts us giving them 1.31 million. So
Additional.
if, it sounds to me as if this committee wants to give zero, and I'm not recommending that. What is the grant that ran out? What was the amount? The five-year grant?
roughly 700.
700,000, so that's an automatic hit they took right off the bat.
Yeah.
What program is that for?
Tony said it before,
So-
but that was a 5-year plan.
May I speak to that, please? So this, we're talking right now about a Title V grant, it's a federal grant. And I'd like Dr. Hackman to speak to that, our provost, and I will lead in by saying we have had 10, and we are on track for 11 consecutive semesters of enrollment growth. Spring, fall, winter, summer. And that is because of this, I would say exclusively, but largely empowered by this particular grant and the things that we're able to be college-wide. So, and I'd like Dr. Hackman to articulate what some of the things that this grant, why continuing to work that grant is so important.
Yeah, I'll be brief in giving you an overview and then I'm happy to answer additional questions you have. So this is a competitive federal grant that we were awarded in 2020 under Title V, awarded by the U.S. Department of Education, specifically because we qualify as a Hispanic serving institution. However, this grant is not designed for a particular population. It is designed to support the entire college population of students. That has led to, the investment has led to an increase in graduation, a significant increase in retention rates across the college. You're seeing more students taking more credits, more students passing college level English, and an increase in students passing college level math in their first semester. So retention is really one of the biggest investments here. Many of you know, as members of the business community, it's harder to attract new customers, especially when there are fewer customers out there. So retention is very important. And we've seen a 9% increase in retention since the inception of this grant. So we've seen very, very good outcomes. And we believe that continuing a small number of part-time positions and an even smaller number of full-time positions, in addition to investments in software programs that have been critical to the success, is something that the college needs to invest in going forward. One of the important software packages that we have invested in is something that a lot of colleges nationally are investing in as an early alert system. It is something that the entire college is connected to, so that when students are beginning on a downward spiral in terms of not showing up to class, not earning passing grades, there's a whole network of supports that launch into action to get that student the support that they need. This is something that we were not able to invest in without the support of this grant, and it's made really critically gained traction here in terms of the outcomes that we're seeing, keeping students on track to graduation and seeing more students, again, passing in math and English, which are typically big barriers to students' retention.
And is it possible to get that grant again?
Yes. We are actively planning when the U.S. Department of Education releases new funding opportunities for that grant or a similar one called Title III. We are already actively planning on the next grant award.
Because it sounds wonderful.
It's been transformative for our students.
So it's lost, but they don't let you reapply for it before you actually use the funding from the Is there like a waiting?
Yeah, the federal government decides annually whether or not they're opening up more competition and how much funding is available. So we are actively monitoring that program.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions here?
We need to pick,
Now we're.
we need to pick a number.
It's either 1.3 or anything less than.
You need a motion.
So.
Well, not yet, we're just discussing.
Well, if we put a motion on the floor, then we can.
If what you're saying, if we pick a number that's different than what it is, the college can always come back to us, correct? If that 900,000 or if that any other funding.
They could, but traditionally they would use their funding.
Okay, but they could come back because I know they've come back in the past.
Are you asking if it's throughout the budget year?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, so they would be able to come and it would be a supplemental appropriation at that time, but those supplemental appropriations increase the floor each time as well, too. So that's just.
well, correct.
Yeah.
But I mean, like if that 900,000 didn't actually materialize, not saying you don't have your numbers right, but if it didn't, if it didn't materialize, then they would be okay. If it did materialize, then it would be where there'd be a shortfall and they could come back and ask the legislature for additional money.
They always have the ability to come back and make the request, and it would go to them as a supplemental appropriation.
Just because I know we just say a number here and there, so. it's
Because the
something-
1.3 adds to the floor.
Correct, yeah, it all
Yes.
does. That,
So
I just wanted to make it
automatically
clear that
adds to it.
this adds to the floor and any supplemental appropriations will do the same as well, just for your edification.
Okay, yeah, yes.
Unless it's for capital.
Just, looking at the position of the fund balance as it stands with the projections that we discussed, at $6 million seems to be woefully inadequate relative to what should exist for a budget of $69 million. So dropping it even further makes it even more precarious. I think irresponsible on our part relative to the position that the college is in. I'd like to see it stay at our contribution.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to echo Legislator Cheney's point. I mean, first, we have our expert that we have hired indicating that their numbers are a little bit, more concerning than the colleges. I wouldn't want to vote on anything that would potentially put them more at jeopardy. So that's where I stand. I mean, we've gone back and forth for quite a bit here. I just want to make sure that we leave them, if anything, with more money to be able to work with, not less.
I would just like to see a little savings here, that's all.
It's a lot of places I'd like to save, not on our students is maybe one that I would be a little bit more cautious on, especially with the numbers that seem very, very, very close right now, especially with the economy and everything that's going on.
I gotta agree, I think the last graduation, see those faces, those kids, and what they came from. I want to invest in education, so I agree. I'm in favor.
And Legislator Cheney, I absolutely support any opportunity for us to lower costs. I'm happy to do that in the budget. But on the community college budget, I think this is one that I think we need to try to help support them more, not less. And I hope that everyone here would do that.
Okay, we're done with comments.
I'm comfortable with 1.3, but I think they heard loud and good, looking at the fees and tuition. If they know they have to do that, but I'm comfortable. It is a crown jewel of the county, so I think Mr. Cheney's correct in his assessment. I don't want to hurt them, so I'm okay with 1.3.
Myself, I'd be much more comfortable with the 1 or a 750 or something, just to show taxpayers of the county that we are working for them as well, not only the students. Any other comments?
I just want to make sure that the college, moving forward, I think they are, is working towards increasing the fund balance to at least a healthy 10-15% as the accountants have indicated. If that's through attrition or through not filling certain positions that maybe not necessarily, I don't know why they're not filled. But whatever it is, if we can try and work on that, that'd be great. We don't have to worry about this problem going forward.
I just want to remind everyone that they only have 40 positions vacant. The county, every time we go through the county budget, we have hundreds of positions that are vacant. So.
Now, we changed that last year, but.
Just want to.
And to help
I just want to let you guys know they only have 40 positions.
I'm hearing like the new here.
Great surplus.
Okay, at this time, I'll entertain a motion from anyone.
I'll make a motion to accept the budget as presented with a county contribution of
An additional 1.3.
I'll
one
second.
point, with a county contribution of 1 point, whatever it is, 3 million.
Great.
Second by legislator Lujan.
Chairman, point of order.
Any other discussion?
Chairman, Chairman Menuda is unable to be here today for E&E. He had asked that I act as his chair for E&E. So Glenn, as you being chair of Ways and Means, that motion is being made as in the Ways and Means portion of this joint.
Yes.
Second, please.
So
I'm the second.
I got the 1 and 2 from Ways and Means.
Just Mr. Chairman.
So on the floor, we have,
Two separate votes.
on the floor, we have I'm looking for a motion and a second to accept the budget as for E&E. I have a motion made by Kevin Darren Luhan and a second.
Second.
Second by Paul Riskevich from E&E. And Chairman, I'll throw it back to you for discussion.
Okay, any further discussion? Now I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Please do roll call, please.
Oh, we do roll call
For each committee.
Okay, we'll do Ways and Means first.
Benton,
Aye.
Yes.
Jones,
Yes.
Aye.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Yes.
six ayes. Amy, Fabian,
Yes.
Aye.
Savage,
Aye.
Massey,
Yes.
Aye.
Bianca,
Yes.
Motion's carried in Ways and Means.
And the motion carries. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
This one's got.
Yeah, this one's gotta go like,
Okay, number 3 on the agenda. Yeah. All right.
We're not done. We're still going.
Okay, number 3, we're gonna have a review of the Orange County audit for the year ended 12/31/2024.
Thank you. Perfect. Okay, great. Do you want me to start or?
Yes, you can start. You want to get a brief response, please?
Hi, my name is Melissa Zah. I was the engagement partner this year. With me, Chris Coffey was the co-engagement partner as well with the transition. So when we look forward just a minute ago, we're going to look back to the December 31st, 2024 financial statements and the results associated with that. Okay. So on slide 2 is going to be the result of the audit. We have issued an unmodified opinion. It is sometimes referred to as a clean opinion, so it is the best opinion that the county can receive. So that's great news. We do obtain reasonable assurance. I think that's important to point out. So we do sample. We don't test 100% of everything. So we look at the risk areas, identify the risk and test those. We are required to communicate any fraud or legal acts that were noted during the audit. I'm happy to report that there were none noted. There were no significant difficulties in conducting our audit, no uncorrected misstatements, and no disagreements with management. As far as timeline is concerned, we're at our January 13th and 15th. We're really focused on the control aspect of the accounting, make sure it's proper checks and balances. And then we came back and did field work starting March 31st for a couple of weeks. And what we tested the numbers that are included in the financial statements. I do want to point out that the county did receive the 2023 GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in the Financial Reporting Program. So again, that's another year under another belt. So if we go to slide 3, this is going to be a summary of the general fund for the county. We have, the county has been breaking out the grant funds from the general funds. This is solely just the general fund. We'll go over the summary here and then we have some details on the subsequent pages. Through total revenue, final budget, we were anticipated receiving $806 million. We actually received $781.6 million, so about $25 million under, primarily related to grant rollers, but we'll go over the detail on the next page. Your total expenditures, you went for your final budget, you anticipated spending $816 million. You actually spent $746. So it was a $69 million savings as well. We did have some other financing sources and uses that would be transfers between the different funds that came in about 1.5 million under what you anticipated. So let's look at the net change in fund balance.
The first column is your original budget. So you originally budgeted for 6.9 million using the county's unassigned fund balance. You had, of that amount, 265,000 was included in your 2024 budget, but you also had open purchase orders that bring the budget from 23 into 24, about 6.7 million, so that gets you to the 6.9. That did increase in your final budget, so again, it went from 6.9 to 20.1 million. The increases would have come to the legislature for approval, so it was for purchase of a 300-acre in Chester. There was some preschool special education programming, early intervention programming, open space capital plan, completing the medical examiner's facility, construction of that. So various items that came to increase that in 2022. So you anticipated using 20 million, but you actually added, with the actual column, added 25.7 million to fund balance instead. So when you compare that to budget, it's about 46 million better than what you budgeted. So let's kind of go into the details to go over what exactly happened. So this is going to be your revenues. We can't identify all the revenues here, but we have covered about 80% of them. These are the significant variances in comparison to your final budget. Your real property taxes did come under about $1 million. That's related to timing and collections of your taxes receivable. So those would be collected in future years. You do have a receivable set up on the balance sheet. The next line item I want to bring up is your sales tax. Your sales tax, even though it's up from last year, about almost 5 million, you still come under budget about 1.1. Again, that's all basically due to the economic activity. Your earnings on investment, on the other hand, increased 5.6, but also came in better, almost 7.7 million than what you anticipated. The county does participate in a local government investment pool, so it was earning high interest rates in that time. For your state aid general, so that's when you can see that that came under your revenue, about 2.6 million. There was a grant awarded within this category. An extension was received, so some of those costs will go into 2025. The next line item is your state aid health. That revenue came in under about 5.2 million. That was your grant rollover. As we talked about, you are separating out your grants, so that will be cleaned up over time. But there were 2 grants, education and care of handicapped children, and then special health programs where those were. Then we go, I want to jump down to your DSS. So you have departmental income, your state aid, and your federal aid. For DSS, we saw that the revenue did come under your child care and safety net, but we do have a slide on DSS overall. So you can just see what those total costs and the total revenue net out to. So we'll cover that as well. If we jump down to federal aid public safety, the revenue came in at about 3.7 under what you anticipated. There was a grant budget that got rolled into this 2024 year for a law enforcement terrorism prevention program, and that budget will again roll into next year. Then your last line item that we've identified on your revenue is your federal aid transportation. Again, this is continuing your grant rollover. So you had specific to your bus operations. So as you spend down that grant, that variance will decrease over time. Important to note at the bottom as well, your sales tax, you do have an offsetting payment that you distribute to the local municipalities of the sales tax. So even though you collected 395 million, you also turned over 103. So let's go to the next slide. We've provided some charts for you for just 5-year history of where your property tax started, where it is today, as well as your sales tax and distribution sales tax. And this is helpful for planning purposes when we get to the budgeting process. We'll go to your expenditures. What we've identified here is your expenditures by function. So I'm going to just kind of go through some of the larger changes. Your general government support, that would be anything that supports the general aspect of the county. You did have favorable budgetary savings of about 21 million. Those covered mostly 3 different categories. Your public works administration of about 9.4, your central data processing or your information systems about 2.7, and then your sales tax distribution, as we spoke about, is in this line as well. So out of those items, you did have some salary and benefit savings of about 950,000. And then you also have 1.7 million in your maintenance contracts and consultants. So those contracts never came to fruition. If we look at the third line, your public safety, you had a budgetary savings of almost 10.3 million. This was mainly in 2 departments. Your jail came in under about 6.2, and your civil defense came under about 1 million. So those 2 departments. Overall, your public safety, we look at the whole function as a whole. You did have salary and benefit savings of approximately 5 million. You had contractual savings, so again, contracts that never got entered into were 3 million, and then you did save money on equipment purchases of 1.3. Next line is your health. These savings was 4.7 million. That was mainly in 2 departments. The public health had a savings of 2.7, and your mental health program had a savings of 1.3. Overall, if we look at your health and total, you had $2 million of salaries and benefits savings, as well as 2.6 million savings in your contractual and consultant line item. Moving down to economic opportunity and development, you had a budgetary savings of 11.7 million. This is your essentially your DSS or majority of your DSS program. Looking at the line items within this, you did have $4.8 million of salaries and benefit savings, as well as 4.5 million in contractual savings. Next line is your cultural recreation. You did save about 1.2, almost 1.3 million in your cultural and recreation. So that would be similar to like your parks and celebrations, which those 2 departments have the largest savings. Again, majority of that was salary benefit savings as well as contractual. And then lastly is your home and community services. You had savings of 19 million. Of that 19 million was a grant rollover of 11.3. So if there's a multi-year grant, that grant rollover budget will kind of go from year to year. As you spend it down, that rollover will decrease over time. So of that 19.4, 11 was grants that are going to be spent down in the future. There were $900,000 of some salaries and benefit savings, and then there weren't as many contracts entered into, so that was about 7 million. I think the main theme on your expenditures and your budgetary savings here is going to be about your salaries and benefits. You had a little under 250 positions open. So that approximates to a large chunk of 69. Let's go to the so this is your DSS local share. It is provided you a 5-year history as well. You can see that costs have gone up, but your federal, state, and departmental income has also gone up. Not as large as your expenditures, so the local share unfortunately has gone up as well. Just to go over some of the programs that are included in the increase of costs, the largest is your medical assistance and your age-dependent children. Those programs went up about 8 million and almost 4 million. Daycare went up almost 3, and then your services were recipients.
The increase also includes the elimination of the old FMAP program. If you remember, you used to get an offset to your Medicaid payments, and this is the last year that they started last year in 2024.
And then we've included just charted out the 5-year history that we showed on number form. You could identify the relationship between the items. I do want to focus on the balance sheet next. So you have your fund balance, but your assets and liabilities will offset those fund balances. So your cash and investments relatively stayed the same year over year, 324 to 322. We did have some better collections on your taxes receivable and accounts receivable. We're still waiting for the sales tax at 12/31/24, so that came out to 41 million. Your state and federal aid receivable did go up slightly. That's related to your billings that you have that you're waiting for reimbursement from the federal and state government. Your leases will go down over time if it's a multi-year lease, so those payments will decrease. There is an advance from sewer fund, and then you have some other due from components, which are paid back and fluctuate over time. On the liability side, you have your accounts payable and accrued liabilities, so those are combined here. Again, that would be due to the timing of payments, so depending on when the invoices come in versus when they're paid. Your unearned revenue was the largest drop here, so went from 68 million down to 32 million. Majority of that was related to the American Rescue Plan Act monies that were spent in 2024. So it was part of the federal compliance audit that we tested. And then we have your fund balance. I do want to go to the next slide because that breaks out your fund balance even more. The county currently has 4 buckets of fund balance. The first item is non-spendable. Non-spendable is essentially already earmarked to be spent elsewhere. You've prepaid an item that will be spent in future years. So that money, the $8 million, is already spent, essentially cannot be spent going forward. Your restricted bucket of 15.4 million, that would be legally restricted. There's local laws associated with that. So you have the different categories here. Your largest being the opioid settlement. So there was a settlement with New York State, which gets passed through to the counties. And that will, I think, be over 25 years with that. That money is restricted to be spent on specific mental health programs. So that's 15.4 million. Your committed bucket, it is where the legislators assign monies. It's more restricted than a regular assignment. We do have 900,000 in your committed fund balance, and then you have your assigned. So in total, your assigned is 118 million. We do have various categories for capital projects, state aid adjustment at 10 million, your open space, acquisition of and renovation of office space, as well as the set aside for Valley View. Your encumbrances of the 21 million that will roll over and be included in your 2025 budget to allow for the departments to make those purchases. So ultimately, if you look at the unassigned, your unassigned fund balance for the general fund ended at 165.4 million. What we've done for you is provided the percentages so you can compare it to the fund balance policy of the county. So your unassigned as compared to your budget is 21.3%, and then your total fund balance of 307.9 million compared to your budget is 39.6%. The county does operate other funds. You have your debt service fund that has all your principal interest payments, county road machinery, sewer, airport, sanitary landfill, off-street parking, which currently has no activity, and then your workforce investment act, as well as your small watershed protection. We provided to you the tax that's allocated amongst these different funds, as well as the other revenue that are collected. We have the operating expenses as well as your interfund transfers. And similarly to the general fund, we have provided the percentage of your total fund balance compared to your budget, as well as your total fund balance compared to the actual property tax levies. You can compare that. That does complete the presentation for the audit for fiscal year December 31st, 2024. There's any questions?
Thank you, Chairman. I just have one question, and maybe our finance people can help us as well. On page 4, the bottom of the page, it shows number one, the distribution of sales tax. And it shows for 2024, $104,483,588. That's the county of Orange sending sales tax money to the municipalities throughout Orange County, correct? So in 2024, the county government sent $104 million to all of our municipalities throughout Orange County.
That's what it's, the 103 million is the actual.
Oh,
You
103.
budgeted,
Oh,
Close enough.
Wrong, just next
there you
column.
go. I'm sorry, $103 million was shared amongst our municipalities. Thank you. Thank you.
Even numbers.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you very much.
Chairman, at this point, I believe I have to call as the acting chairman of E&E to adjourn the E&E portion of this meeting.
So moved. Second.
Sally, am I correct in that? Oh, thank you. All right, I'm off the hook now.
Wow, you did a good job.
It's all you.
Okay, Ways and Means is going to continue.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
First up will be, Howard Hughes. Here, Howard, you see Donna.
You should have Peter join me as
Peter, okay, very well, thank you. Okay. Letter A, request supplemental appropriation of funds for a proposed 2025 capital expenditure for replacement of kitchen ceiling tiles as recommended in the facilities condition assessment report. The ceiling tiles in the dietary kitchen have deteriorated and replacement is a necessity to ensure safe and sanitary conditions. This is proposed capital project number 154 in the 2025 capital plan. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created. $22,500 bonding. May I have a motion, please? Fagione? I'll second it. Okay, can you highlight that quickly, Iris?
This was priority level one in the facility assessment report that done a couple of years back, presented to the committee members. We're seeking approval to replace the tiles in the kitchen.
Any questions? All the questions? Cheney?
Small, fairly small amount. It's a capital project because of the state aid we're gonna get received as part of it, as opposed to it just being an operating cost.
This is going to be bonded. This is going to be bonded with serial bonds.
Yeah, I realize that, but why are we doing projects that are this small? Why can't they be folded into the operating costs without?
I think what we're trying to do is kind of preserve a little bit of our cash fund. And from an operating standpoint, if we put it in there, we need more revenue to be able to cover that expense. When we bond through serial bonds, it gives us the opportunity to stretch that expense out and amortize it. So that's why.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, letter B, request supplemental appropriation of funds for a proposed 2025 capital expenditure for replacement of specialty wheelchairs. The New York State Department of Health and the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services mandate nursing home operators to provide appropriate mobility devices to maintain residents' highest level of functional independence within a nursing home environment. This is proposed capital project number 144 in the 2025 capital plan. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created, $65,000 bonding, request number 211. I'll make that motion. Fagione, I'll second it. Highlight that for us, please.
Sure. Approximately 16% of the Valley residents use specialty wheelchairs for transportation. The average life of a wheelchair will depend on the frequency of use and the terrain that they use it on. We are seeking $65,000 to replace some of these wheelchairs. And there's a write-up that kind of is a justification that outlines the different types of chairs that we use, a jerry chair that allows the resident to recline back, and a rock and go.
Any questions from the committee? Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll go on to letter C. Request supplemental appropriation of funds for a portable generator for the wastewater treatment plant. New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the United States Environmental Protection Agency require that this facility provide a backup electrical power source to the wastewater treatment plant in the event of normal utility electrical power loss, operational continuity of the wastewater treatment plant equipment during loss of normal electrical utility power ensures consistent effluent quality and that effluent limitations remain in compliance with permitted quality and the effluent. Oh, where am I at here? God, you got so many words. Yeah, I'm talking to myself. The wastewater treatment plant outfall discharges into a tributary of the Walkville River, and the completion of this project will ensure continued protection of the receiving waterway and protect public health. This is not in the 2025 capital plan. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created, $117,230. May I have a motion, please? Luhan, Fagion.
Thank you. Peter, I'm gonna have you give a little update on this.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the existing generator that's there has not been connected. My time there, and the state came in and did a inspection of our facility in January. We're currently renting the generator at a cost of about $4,000 a month. So purchasing this generator will relieve us of the rental because there's a project to replace the entire plant. Most of the folks on the committee know across the street, so installing a new stationary generator doesn't really make sense at this point. The portable will allow us to be able to move it to another location when the new plant opens with its own generator. Why would you not put it permanently at much less cost according to the backup information provided and just move that permanent to the new location, be a different size, different capacities, well, then you can't use the one that you're buying. We don't know what the requirements are going to be for the new plant, so I can't size a generator appropriately for the new plant. The generator would be sized for what we already have. So did you speak to Delaware Engineering, who's working on the design of the new plant, to find out what size generator? Because if you oversize the generator at this point in time, you could then use it, and generators they last a long, long time. They felt that the portable was more economically good. Delaware? Yes. You get that right? Get it, I'm sure. I don't recall that. In right. So their recommendation was to go with the portable generator. Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You too.
All right, next up, we have Parks Department. Travis here. Brother A, it looks like Alan's going to give us a little presentation on the master plan for Camp LaGuardia.
Yeah, I was gonna ask Travis to start us off. Thank you. This request is to allow us to introduce the master plan for a major community park at the former Camp LaGuardia site. Alan and his team did an awesome job putting together this master plan. Really appreciate all the effort. And in the last Orange County Parks master plan, expanding open space and recreational opportunities was identified as a key priority. That master plan was done in 2000. And since then, the population in Orange County has grown significantly, making this even more of a priority, in our opinion. And the planning department conducted a county-wide gap analysis on our park system and identified a clear need for a major community park in the lower central portion of Orange County. The Camp LaGuardia site was identified as a
perfectly situated location for this on a tract of land that the county already owns. And it was especially attractive because it's at a location where the intersection of the Heritage Trail and the Future Study Home Trail come together. And, over the last year, we've worked with the planning department and Open Space Institute and County Exec's office to put together concept plans for the development of Camp LaGuardia as a park, which would look to revitalize the long abandoned former Camp LaGuardia site and create a recreation hub there to be a benefit for the whole county. The concept plans have been included in the master plan, and they illustrate proposed improvements. They'll feature a mixture of activity, passive recreation opportunities, including multi-purpose trails, natural trails, overlooks, scenic overlooks, access to the Sealy Brook for fishing opportunities, ball fields and courts, a splash pad, playgrounds, gathering and event spaces, a dog park, and a variety of camping opportunities. All identified in that. So in the packet, we've included the master plan along with the concept plans as well.
In developing the master plan for Camp LaGuardia, we also went back and took a look at the county's existing park facilities, developed a classification system for the county's parks, broken into 4 categories: special use parks. These would be smaller parks like Brickhouse Museum, Heritage Trail, Coho. Next classifications, a little bit larger park, the neighborhood parks. These are described starting on page 8 of the master plan. Neighborhood parks serve the neighborhood's recreational and social focus and help to serve areas without local municipal parks. Examples of those would be Algonquin, Palmer Hill, Heritage Space Park. Then moving up to the larger parks, we get into community parks. And they're more diverse, serving a broader purpose in a larger geographic area. Examples of those include Gonzaga, Greenwich Canal Park, Winding Hills. And then we get into the major community park classification, which are really meant to serve a much larger geographic area of the county, broader purpose, greater variety of activities, may include both daytime and evening activities, including fields and other amenities. And there are 2 existing major community parks in the county, the Thomas Bolton Memorial Park and the Warwick Park. Page 12, we kind of mapped those facilities. And so the last major community park, which is Thomas Bolton Park, was developed in 1965. It's hard to believe it's 60 years ago. And then if you look at the map on page 12, you'll see in terms of major community parks, there's where Camp LaGuardia is situated is an area of the county that we all know is one of the fastest growing areas of the county, higher population density. And Camp LaGuardia is also situated at the intersection of the Heritage Trail and the Scunnamunk Trail. So it's really perfectly situated from public access, bicycle pedestrian access, serving a major region within the county with very large population density. So for many reasons, the Camp LaGuardia site as a major community park makes great sense. The master plan kind of lays out a framework for moving forward, starting with the cleanup of the site. And as you know, Legislature has already authorized funding to begin that cleanup of the sites and removal of dilapidated buildings, some mowing of the brush, things like that, removal of some of the old chain link fence, things of that nature. But in the master plan, there are the conceptual plans that we developed with OSI.
the master plan kind of lays out a framework for the steps that the county, Parks Department, DPW planning will need to take in order to move it from an abandoned former, started out as a women's farm colony in 1936, as a women's prison, and it became, during the Great Depression, became a facility for single men. And then, as you all know, it ended up, its last iteration as a public facility was as New York City's homeless shelter. So, in the transformation to become the county's new major community park, we don't anticipate doing this all at once, but it will be implemented in phases, beginning with the cleanup, then the development of the play fields on the Heritage Green area, the area down by the intersection of the Stonewall Trail and the Heritage Trail. The initial connection to the Stonewall Trail will be through Camp LaGuardia. That Heritage, the Stonewall Trail we're now in the design phase, working with HVDA engineering, and we anticipate that in 2026, the Stonewall Trail will be fully under construction, with the goal of completing that project in the near future. And as you know, we've already secured $28 million total stage and county funding for that project. Last but not least, the master plan helps us as we pursue future funding opportunities. And there is a grant funding opportunity on the horizon that we're parks and grant shooting and planning have been gearing up for that potentially can help us to secure anywhere from $15 to $30 million. That's a 50-50 match. So I think this plan hopefully will position us in a good setting to be able to obtain those grants in the near future.
Thank you very much. You're welcome. All right, move on to letter B. Request supplemental appropriation to the capital projects budget in the amount of $600,000 for the engineering and design of recreation improvements at the former Camp LaGuardia site. This project has been approved under the 2025 capital plan as project number 98. An additional legislative request will be submitted for the remaining funds in capital project number 98. Upon approval, a new capital project will be created. This project is for design of proposed improvements and does not exceed any of the thresholds in section 6 NYCRR part 617.4. Therefore, it is determined that this project is a type 2 action as defined in section 617.5 and of 6 NYCRR .617, the statewide seeker regulations, and therefore is not subject to provision of those regulations. Request number 224. Lujan, Fabian. Any questions, anybody? You want to highlight any further, or we're pretty good, I think, right?
This is really the design money to get started with the conceptual improvements that have been shown on the plan to do. Right.
Any further questions? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your work.
All right, next we have Paul Wiley, real property. Letter A, we have a request to authorize an easement across county-owned property for an existing drainage swale for the Village of Florida water treatment plant. The county-owned property is a vacant tract that is north portion of the town of Chester, section 16, block 1, lot 3.32, which is the northeastern section of Flinders Lake. The easement seeks to memorialize the existing drainage pipe and swale that are along the front section of the parcel and will encompass an area to be approved by the Orange County DPW and the Village of Florida. The easement would allow the Village of Florida to access the area to perform necessary maintenance and cleaning. Request number 207.
So
Motion. Second. Jane Fagione. I like that quick. I did go through a site inspection, so I'll do it.
Oh, good. As you recall from last month, this is the same presentation. We're just asking to memorialize this easement, which is covering an area where there's already a drainage swale in place. And they need this memorialized in a formal easement so that they can apply for PUC permits and funding so they can do what they need.
Any questions?
The wording in the easement, they're then required to involve maintenance of that easement.
Yes, they would be required for anything involved with swale.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, letter B, request to authorize the county executive to sign an agreement in accordance with real property tax law, section 1537, to continue to provide assessment services to the town of Palm Tree and the town of Chester. Request number 216.
I'll make that motion.
Archeon, Cheney,
Thank you. This is just to allow us to continue to provide intermunicipal agreement to provide assessment services for the towns of Palm Tree and the town of Chester.
Archeon first.
Just a quick question, to continue to provide services. How many years has this been going on? Is it new? Is it ongoing?
It is ongoing. The original law, I believe, was from 2012 for the first few municipalities. Palm Tree was added, I believe, in 2019. So we are going through, we have contracts that are every 2 or 3 years. Palm Trees will be due at the end of this year. Chester's will be at the end of next year. That just allows us to continue.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you, Chairman.
What are the charges? How are the charges assessed? What's the basis?
It's generally based upon the number of parcels, but then also about how much work it winds up requiring for us to do that. So it's not just a pure per parcel number, like so many cents per parcel. You have to provide enough services so that there is an assessor and an assistant assessor at least, perhaps assessor clerks. For Palm Tree, we have they are actually housed in our building. They're in our department. In Chester, they are housed in the town. Chester is town hall. So there's different expenses involved in running the two different agreements that we have.
So we're basically being made whole.
Yes, effectively. It's that we don't, it's very close, so yes. Yeah. It's upon how much it costs.
Have the charges increased over the years?
They do a little bit each year.
And it's the two that we're looking at today, do they include increases from the last?
Yes, there are increases. It tends to be somewhere around 2 to 3%.
Thank you.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Okay, letter C, request supplemental appropriation of assigned fund balance from acquisition and renovating office space assignment to purchase the Woolworth Building at 128 Broadway, Newburgh, $600,000. Request number 229.
So moved. Second.
Fagione? You're up.
If I may, actually, the next two requests are related. We were able to acquire the Woolworth Building at 128 Broadway, which houses our DMV health departments in Newburgh. And we were able to buy them at auction just a few weeks ago. This is to basically provide the funding for that. We were able to get the money out of our budget, and now we need to have a capital plan to pay for that and fill our coffers.
Any questions?
So is this the authorization to purchase or the authorization to replenish your budget?
Replenish the budget. We were provided the authorization to purchase a month or two ago. And we were then, the auction.
Term is with an address, not an actual name of the building.
Oh, yeah, that's
For the
true.
auction.
Yeah.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. All right, letter D, request supplemental appropriation of funds from the New York, from New Capital Project to replenish the $600,000 in real properties operating budget lines that were used to purchase the Woolworth Building at 128 Broadway, Newburgh. Request number 230.
So moved.
Second.
Luhan Cheney?
As I said, this is the second part. This is to, the funding that we just approved, this is to replenish the project. Just shifting the money into to replenish.
All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick.
Mr. Chairman, just before we continue, do we have any updates on when, there might be some innovation from that, the DMV building?
I believe that the DMV is planning on renovations now. We were waiting for the purchase to go through and then they were going to go. I believe it's shut down right now, so someone's sure they can do some work on for that. So it's working.
Thank you so much. We are very happy to do that.
So, Larry Gallagher, Commissioner of Finance. Andrew Containen, Deputy Commissioner. We're going to have a quick sales tax update.
Sure, but just before I start on the sales tax, can I just publicly thank my finance team for what was just accomplished, another clean audit. The finance department works beyond a normal 8-hour day for the last 7 months to get this accomplished. So I just want to personally thank them. One of my fiscal directors is in the room. She nicely reminded me today that since they're reporting on it, that means the next one's about to start. So she might not have a job tomorrow. So, no, I mean, we do a fantastic job and they just need to be personally thanked for the hard work that they do.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you and the entire department for leadership and getting, these things aren't easy. Especially with almost $1 billion. But thank you very much for being an integral part of keeping the county in good standing financially.
I agree. It's not me, it's my team, so I'm very grateful. But
And they're always there to answer questions.
I appreciate that. Okay, so now I'll go back to the sales tax. So as we do every month, I'm here to report on the actuals. The plan is actually prepared by Deb, the budget director, during the budget process. But when I come here every month, I report on the actuals versus the plan. So as I just had good news, my news isn't as good. Plus, for the month of July. Thank you. For the month of July, we are 6.23% under plan, or $1.1 million. And year to date, we are $6.1 million under plan. Again, as the auditor said, there's some uncertainty with the economy. This is a lagging indicator of when these sales tax are deposited. So we hope that in the next few months, it'll actually be the nice weather that we're finally seeing. Now that it's 90,000 degrees in here, that people are out and about shopping and doing what they need to do. So do I think we're going to meet the plan? I'm concerned because we're at, right now, negative, a large gap to fill. But again, I'll be here every month to report on the actual numbers. Just the other set that a lot of counties compare to 24, another little hiccup is we are actually under plan. Yeah, we're under plan the same time last year by 1.1%. So that's a little bit concerning that we're less than we were last year in 24. But again, we do a fantastic job of promoting tourism, and we hope that the fall and that the summer months will bring us to where we need to be.
Happy New Year, our second quarter payments went out to the municipalities on time.
And again, like you guys all know, that is the number one call that I get. When are we getting? Yes.
We do not blame the
Can't do it.
Any questions?
Yeah, it's not about sales tax, but are you killing it on the interest like we did in 2024?
We are. We're doing. Yeah, we're doing it.
Way above projections, right?
This year, honestly, we're probably closer to projection than we were because
We were a little aggressive in our budget process. We budgeted about 18 million total. I think we hit about 19.
Very good.
Thank you guys.
very much.
Have a nice afternoon.
Next up, we have Deborah Wozinski, Budget Director, and Dina Sina, Deputy Budget Director. It's been a long afternoon.
I know. All right, so basically, revenues from, for 25 to 24 is a deficit of 150 million.
That is basically because the sales tax, the property tax has not been posted, which is 95 million. And the sales tax, we provided this to Gene before they posted the sales tax. So that's the big quick question right there. State aid is up 5 million. Basically, that is health, 13.3 million, mostly related to early intervention and preschool. Contracted mental health is down 1.8 million. DSS is down 5 million, and aging is down 2 million. And as you know, we have the 1090 fund for the grant, but that's going to be going into the other funds, so it's not going to be in the general fund. Federal aid is a deficit of 13 million. DSS is down 8.2 million. And again, the planning grants are 3 million, and that's going to go into the 1090 fund also. Other revenues, 25 to 24 is 47 million lower. Again, we talked about that because that's the 42 million that we haven't posted on this page. Okay. Also, interest and earnings are $5.4 million less at this time, but I'm sure that they're going to come back with some things in the fall. Expense totals are a deficit of $2.7 million. Fringe benefits and personal services are down 7.9 million. And that's because we have the accrual posted in February, where we were doing it in December last year. And contractual is up about 5.3 million, and that's basically related to DSS is up 3.8 million.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Good night.
Okay. All right, next up, last but not least, we have our very own Devondarian Lujan legislator. Would you like to read the resolution?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Resolution of the Orange County Legislature opposing the decision to terminate the Newburgh Beacon Ferry by the Metropolitan Transit Authority. I'd like to make a motion.
Second.
And I know this has been a long evening. First, I just want to thank Chairman Hines for allowing this to come to the floor, and our legislative council who assisted with this. This is a resolution really to show our support for the Newburgh Ferry. We've been around since 2005. Unfortunately, we have completely removed operations in the city of Newburgh going to Beacon. Just a couple of weeks ago, we had elected officials from both sides of the river. We had the county executive, we had Steve Newhouse, we had Thompson Ryan, we had Senator Rollison, Senator Jacobson. My own colleague in the city of Newburgh, Legislator Ramos, has been championing along this with me. This is something we all care about. We're a river community. We want to make sure that we're boosting tourism. We want to make it easier for people to access jobs, and the ferry does that. And so I just want to make sure that I know that you all care about transportation. The town of Newburgh, the town of Newburgh Council actually approved a resolution not too long ago as well. So this is bipartisan. This is something that I think that we all care about. Just wanted to bring it forward to the legislature to go in on this and to help champion transportation in Orange County to Dutchess and create opportunities. Not what we've seen with MCA was actually removed a really vital service to our community. And so this resolution would go to Governor Hochul, it would go to senators and assembly members that represent Orange and Dutchess. It would also go to the city of Beacon council members and the Dutchess County Legislature. And hopefully they will also show leadership on this issue to make sure that we're putting pressure where it needs to go. So I hope that all my colleagues will support this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Chairman Hines?
Yeah, I got a call from Legislator Ramos today in support of it, and also from Legislator O'Donnell. As you know, he is the county exec's appointee to the MTA, and he was going to run with this as well for us at the MTA board. So I also support it, and I thank Legislator Lujan for bringing it to us, because Legislator O'Donnell called me this morning and said, "Can we get a consent resolution about the MTA?" And I said, "We're already on it, and it's going to be on the meeting."
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, again, and also to Legislator O'Donnell and Legislator Ramos. I just wanted to end also, I mean, we're about an hour away, but just so you know, for those of you who would like to attend in Beacon, they're actually going to be doing a rally in favor of it. They've been promoting this for the last several weeks across the city of Newburgh and the city of Beacon, because there's so many people who care about this. There's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of enthusiasm to try to save this program, so that's really great. And tomorrow, the MTA is actually going to be opening up for public comment. I know that there's a lot of people from Orange County that will be going. So this is very timely. It's so again, it's going to have a real big impact. So we appreciate anybody willing to sign on in the office. Thank you again, Mr. Chairman, and legislature.
With that, I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'm going to dig it now, yes.
Okay, Pat, you know, we're going over.
So
They have to fix it.
they say